Welcome everyone to my bedroom. Welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who've been here before, hey, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome in. If you're on Instagram, you might as well follow me. If you're on Instagram, you probably noticed that weird little thing that they just did, which is like, ask me a question. And you can type in a question and you can ask people the most ridiculous, crazy shit that you ever wanted to ask them. And I tried that out and it was really fun. And I got a lot of things that are recurring, and a lot of the questions that were recurring I thought would be really good ideas to make videos about, so that's what this is. And one of the questions that I got asked more than any other was, how did you get your start in coffee? What's your coffee history? How did you end up in specialty coffee? Or some other variant of that. So we're gonna cover that today, and I don't know how long this is gonna be. If it gets too long, maybe we'll break it into a couple parts, maybe it'll be a series, and hopefully throughout the process of telling this story, there'll be some nuggets that you can grab onto that will maybe help you through your career path, or just kind of clarify some thinking, or maybe just get to know me better if you wanna do that. I like to get to know you when I read the comments. It's interesting to see different people's thought process around specialty coffee, where they fit into the industry, home baristas versus normal baristas. Normal baristas? What does that even mean? I'm just a normal barista, regular barista here, just hanging out, trying to be a barista, trying to make an honest living as a barista, doing my thing. So if this history is interesting to you, that's awesome. I'd love to hear what you think about it. If it's not interesting to you and you're like, I don't want to listen to this dude talk about himself for like a while, just skip. There's a bunch of other videos on the channel, tutorials, all kinds of other stuff. Just check some out, Or just thumbs down me all day. Be like, this sucks, this guy blows, whatever. Let's get into it. So I definitely didn't set out to work in coffee. It wasn't a conscious decision that I made. I didn't wake up one morning and be like, definitely gonna pursue a career in coffee. So we gotta unwind this a little bit. There's kind of two main things that led to me being in coffee. One of them is a major injury that I had. So went to high school like most normal people, had a couple random jobs, no big deal. And then I had a couple jobs that I really liked working at skate shops. And the skate shop was a perfect place for me to work because I was a skateboarder. It's my first love. It's still the thing that I love the most to this day. And just to be around skateboards and other people that skateboard, it just felt really, really good. It was a big part of who I was. It was a big part of my identity. Not just the skate shop itself, but the skate community and the identity of being a skateboard. It was basically like, go to school, go work at the shop, skate the rest of the day, rinse and repeat. Now on that note, I was always a coffee drinker. My mom was a really big coffee drinker. She would always drink black coffee. So we would always have coffee around the house, and a place opened up down the street from my house that we would go once a week. And I didn't realize it at the time, but they were kind of on the cutting edge of the whole thing. So at some point in the late 80s, they opened this espresso bar, and to have an espresso bar in this really random town in the Central Valley, California, made no sense at all. It predates any Starbucks coming into that town, and they were pulling espresso manually, and they were making things like lattes, mochas, and cappuccinos way before that was a trend. If you're young enough, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? This shit's been around, but it really hasn't. The modern espresso movement is super, super young. So once a week, we would go get the fancy coffee beans from the fancy coffee place. That's where you see all the beans in the bin and buy some special stuff, and I would get a mocha. And I was like, dude, mocha's gonna change my life. In addition to that, when I was in high school, I used to brew this like really big jug of coffee. It was in like this thermal carafe. It was a vase or a thermal carafe that looked like a flower vase, and it had these floral prints all over it. It was just what my mom had lying around the house. I'd brew coffee in the morning, drink some coffee, fill the rest of that thing up, and me and my homie Josh, we would keep it in our locker so we could pull out coffee throughout the day. Again, didn't think about it. I was just like, I like coffee. It's great. So fast forward back to the whole skateboarding skate shop situation. When I was about 21, I had back surgery. So I had a really gnarly herniated disc that was impacting basically everything in my life. It made my life terrible. I couldn't move. I couldn't put my own shoes on. I couldn't put my own socks on. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't do a lot of things that normal people do. And this just really sucked, and I tried a bunch of different things along this whole journey. I tried all different kinds of PT, I tried everything that I could do, and it got to a point where nothing was making it better. So I went in for surgery, and it's called a discectomy. They basically cut a little slice out, open in your back, and they chop part of one of your discs off. So they remove a piece of the disc that's impacting the nerve. And this, for a 21-year-old, just really sucks because the recovery's decently long, and although I didn't know it at the time, I had a really shitty post-op recovery. The PT that I went through might as well have been non-existent. It was absolutely ridiculous, but I was just a kid. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, yeah, sure, do these exercises, it's whatever. So it was this combination of really mild physical therapy and just kind of laying around doing nothing. I got really weak, and when I did finally start to recover and gain some mobility back and I was able to go back to work, I didn't really want to go back to the skate shop or even be around that stuff because it was really depressing to me to be around this culture and not be able to participate in it. It was like my whole identity was wrapped up in that. I didn't want to be around skateboarders and skate product and skate everything and not actually be able to skate. It was just too much. It was gnarly. It really bummed me out. Super big bummer. So I was telling my friend Matt about this, told him like, yeah, I might be kind of looking for a job. I don't really know what I'm gonna do. And he worked at the coffee shop down the street, which was actually the same coffee shop that my mom and I used to go to when I was a lot younger. And he was a barista there. He was starting to get into espresso and coffee and the whole thing. And he's just, why don't you work at the coffee shop? Come on down. You hang out there anyway. It'll be chill. You can just make coffee and make paninis in the back, and I'll show you how to make espresso. It'll be whatever. Sure, might as well. I mean, I'm hanging out here anyway, but don't want to work at the skate shop. There's really nothing else going on. I'll come work at the coffee shop. So when I started working at the coffee shop, I was immediately enchanted by this idea of espresso. I don't know why. I think it was because it seemed really mysterious. There weren't a lot of people drinking straight espresso, and it was still long enough ago to where, you know, that whole third wave, I didn't even know what third wave coffee was. I just happened to work for a place where we were manually pulling espresso and steaming milk and everything like that, but we had no idea about this movement that was about to go down. Keep in mind, at about this time, it's like 2002, 2003, like maybe tail into 2001, somewhere in that juncture. So if you rewind the specialty coffee clock, there's not a lot going on there. Especially in the Bay Area, you've got Ritual entering the scene in 2005. Barefoot was already going on in San Jose. But if you know Barefoot now, it's absolutely nothing like it was back in the day. Back in the day, Andy was at the helm and it was a whole different thing. We'll talk about that later. And Blue Bottle's maybe just this like whisper in the wind. So espresso, it just seemed enchanting and I wanted to learn about it. And part of it was that I wanted to learn about this mysterious thing. And then part of it is that I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I just want to do the best that I can with whatever I do. I just want it to be awesome. And I don't know why, it's just programmed into me. Sometimes it's annoying, it just takes up so much time. So hard to try to be good at stuff. I don't know why. Just be terrible, your life will be better, you won't have to worry about it. So I kind of started learning the ins and outs of espresso, doing what I thought was best, learning from the people that were there. And although we were doing it hands-on, there wasn't a ton of theory behind it. It's just like, you know, a couple clicks, fill up the portafilter, smash the tamper in there. What does it look like? Just kind of, you know, make it look how it's supposed to. We didn't really adjust the grind that much, or we weren't supposed to. So I learned to manipulate flow rate by either just kind of putting more coffee in or taking coffee out of the dough and just, you know, weird little workarounds. Because even though nobody told me that a gushing shot shouldn't look like a gushing shot, just something intuitive about it. It looks too fast, it doesn't look right. I like it when it looks like syrup and honey. Now this is where my whole world kind of changed. So one day, my now good friend Tony walks through the door, and Tony is this really large, boisterous, energetic, he's just a huge personality. He's like a dude, and back then he was even more of a dude because keep in mind, we're in this small town in the Central Valley, California, and this dude comes in who just looks like he's fresh off the streets of San Francisco. He's just like, he's got this style. It's not like a hipster thing, it's just like, this dude's not from here, and he looks like he's been around, he's on some other level stuff. He's got this little swag that's associated with him. He walks in, he asks to talk to the manager's not there, and then he just launches down this like coffee rabbit hole, asking about things like, so who here's pouring latte art? And I'm just like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't know what latte art is. And he's like, oh, cool, you guys pulling like ristretto shots? And I'm just, these words are going in one ear and out the other. And I'm completely perplexed. I have no clue. And I was honestly a little bit intimidated because I'm just a kid. This guy's like a big personality. I have no idea what he's talking about. There's obviously something that I'm missing out on. He continued to come into the shop and we developed, I wouldn't really quite call it a friendship, but it was more of like this friendly acquaintance. And through him, I got introduced to the magical world of David Schomer and Espresso Vivace, just through him kind of, you know, sprinkling this knowledge here and there. And I found those really awesome old training videos that I bought, and it's Schomer in his apron, his bolo tie, super dialed out. And it was one of the first resources that I'd found for making, you know, modern, what maybe not considered modern now, but like cutting edge espresso and really texturing milk well. But the day that my life like really got flipped in its head was Tony came in and he's like, I'm gonna open a coffee shop. I'm gonna open a coffee shop in this town and it's gonna be awesome. And I'm gonna go on a trip next week and we're gonna find who my new roaster is gonna be. We're gonna go look at all these places. Right now, it's 2005. He comes in, he's like, you wanna come with me? You wanna drive to the city? We're gonna go. And I was just scared shitless out of my mind to be in a car with this dude for all day, basically, because I didn't really know him and I was super intimidated. But I was like, yeah, I wanna go, let's check it out. The day comes, he picks me up in the morning, we just drive to San Francisco. The first place that we went was Ritual on Valencia. And at this time, Ritual had just opened. They opened in 2005. So the only real well-known places to get third wave coffee at this time in San Francisco were Ritual and Blue Bottle. And the only Blue Bottle that was there was the Kiosk in Hayes Valley, the Linden Street thing. So we go into the Mission. I'd never really been to the Mission before. We'd been on skate trips to San Francisco, but we'd always go downtown, Embarcadero, Market Street, that whole situation. Roll into Ritual, and it was a coffee bar like I'd never seen before. It's definitely modeled after some of the first Stumptowns, because at the time, even though they were called Ritual Coffee Roasters, they were actually still a Stumptown account, and they were one of the first big Stumptown accounts outside of Portland, because if you know your history, Stumptown in the beginning didn't really want to sell their coffee outside of Portland. They were very proud of their local heritage, and it wasn't super common to see their wholesale spread that far. So we rolled in, I ordered a cappuccino, he ordered a cappuccino. I was staring at the baristas just making this cappuccino like I had literally never seen before. I'd seen the Vivace videos, so I'd seen latte art, but I'd never seen it in person. And I certainly had never seen it done with so much style and on such like a large scale. It seemed like such a special thing at the time. And they're here cranking out drink after drink after drink after drink with latte art and perfectly textured milk on top. And I just didn't really know what to think about it. Again, if you're a barista now, it's going to be hard to put it into context, but it was just not a thing. It's like chasing this weird unicorn. It just so happens it exists. Now, you know, fucking scroll on Instagram and 1,000 pictures of latte art's everywhere. Imagine Instagram's not around. People are doing like MySpace for their social thing. There's no really big specialty coffee community, and this is just a new and happening thing in the Bay Area. Got my cappuccino, sat down in the couch. They used to have this black couch in the back of the building, looked at it for an awkwardly long amount of time, took a drink, and my fucking mind just melted. I was just blown away. I was in total heaven. I couldn't believe that anything could taste like that, and I couldn't believe that a coffee shop could feel like that. It made me feel cool for being there. The coffee tasted fantastic. There was so much care that went into the preparation, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And that was probably the switch that flipped. It was like, I'm in love with this idea of espresso specifically. I don't know what's going on, but this is the best thing ever. From there, we went to this place called Organica. So Eaton Suno works for Temple, had a little coffee bar in San Francisco that was called Cafe Organica. And I think he was the first multi-roaster probably ever. Again, 2005, roll into this little shop, and he's got his linea, and he's got 4 grinders lined up. And I've just been to Ritual, seen latte art for the first time in real life, and now I'm going into this place that has 4 different espressos, and I just didn't know what to do. I remember he had something from Zoka, he had something from Barefoot, he had 1 decaf option, and then I'm trying to think of what else was going on. I can't remember, but it was just nuts. And I remember him and this dude Brian, who later worked at Pacino, were there, and he was just kind of like casually eating sushi behind the bar, which I didn't know how service worked. I thought that was like totally chill. I'm like, oh, this is what people do in the city. They eat sushi and rip shredder espresso. Had coffee there, and then from there, went down to Hayes Valley to go to the Blue Bottle Kiosk. And the Blue Bottle Kiosk was super, super special in its own right, because it's just this little like tucked away thing, and Blue Bottle wasn't a big company at all. You know, they were at the farmers markets, and this was their only like real solid location. They weren't this huge well-known name like they are now. And because it's tucked away in this alley and it's just this little walk-up window, it felt really, really special. And I remember a lot from that service, and I remember I ordered a macchiato, and Jamie, who now owns a Brasso in New York, and he's just this like, I don't know, really cool salt and pepper hair guy. He looks like he's cooler than you, you know, like he's definitely cooler than you. And I thought he was way cooler than me at the time, probably because he was. I remember he did this weird thing too, to where he pulled the espresso, and then there's this kind of like service bar, and he sat the espresso up on the bar and then like poured the milk out there. Like he wasn't pouring it in front of his face. He just like, it was like a long pour, and he did it really, really casually, and it just tasted like butterscotch, and it was super nuts. My wig was super twisted back. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know that, like, man, what? So we get in the car, and on the way home, we go through San Jose to visit Barefoot, which was this really unassuming place. It was kind of in this like little strip mall place on Stevens Creek, and Tony had met Andy, who started Barefoot, at a barista competition, which was this other foreign object thing to me back in the day, and developed a little relationship with him. So we went to taste his coffee. And even though it was in a strip mall, it was full of passionate, like really incredible baristas. I remember they had this girl, Eugenia, who worked there, who she was like the most professional thing that I'd seen at the time. She was the first person I saw do the stock plus redistribution move in real life. And I was just like, what the fuck is that? I'd seen like the Tim Wendelboe video from like way back in the day. And she just did so smooth. Had really good coffee there, and a really good conversation with Andy, who we're definitely going to talk about Andy more, because he was a huge influence on my career, or what would be my career. So after Barefoot, we went home, and I just remember, I don't even think I talked to Tony on the way home. I was just sitting in the car, just kind of staring out the window, thinking about all the possibilities, and thinking about how everything in my life had just changed. You know, and it's not like this big event to where like, oh, someone died, or whatever. It was just one day of just ridiculous coffee, and I knew that I was gonna do something with coffee. I knew it was gonna go somewhere, and maybe this is a good place to kind of stop and take a break, and we can pick this up in another episode, because the next transition is the transition from that experience to deciding that I wanted to compete in my first barista competition, deciding that I wanted to compete in my first Coffee Fest latte art competition, and deciding that I needed to tell my parents that, like, hey, remember how I'm in school and I'm a history major and I'm gonna be a teacher? Yeah, I'm just not gonna do that. I'm gonna go. And there's a lot of really, really fun stories around that. That's gonna be the next episode's gonna be the most, It's gonna be the banger episode. This is the one with the nuggets, but that's the background. I don't know if there's a lesson in there or if that's just good information. I think the lesson that I learned is that there's levels to everything. There's like really interesting things sometimes hiding in plain sight, and there are special things happening all around us, and the power of being a person that can connect you to something. Tony is one of the biggest influences in my life just for opening up doors like that and making someone culturally aware of the things around them. And I think maybe that's why I love this channel so much. You know, I love teaching people things. I love simplifying things, making things easy to digest. But I think there's something about just sharing experiences, maybe opening up doors for other people that's really, really powerful. So that's part one of how I got into coffee. This is gonna get pretty long if I do it all together. So I'm just gonna say, we'll pick this up later. Stay dialed, and I will catch you.